So, you've heard this message referred to as simple, right? Simple, effortless, and obvious. These kinds of words that, if you're a me, let's be honest, they piss you off, right? Because, well, as a me, I can't do effortless. I'm kind of screwed. So you can take your effortless and, well, right? It's kind of a trap. I mean, yeah. So it's got to be prior to doing, right? There can't really be any doing involved. And so then everything becomes very simple. The sounds, sitting in a chair, looking at a computer screen. Just whatever's happening. Very simple. And so for what's happening, nothing's needed. Like, what would you need to get to what's happening? It's already happening. So if you're feeling stuck, that's what's happening. Excuse me, that's what's happening. If you're feeling really clear, it's just what's happening. Now, I've heard um, I don't know, I've heard it said that at some level you know this already, that there's just what's happening. But it does, as Dan said in his post, it does put the me out of a job, if we can just say it like that, right? Because if there's just what's happening, there's no space in there for this a me. And yet, even a feeling of a me can be what's happening, really. So, yeah, anything, but it's only just what's happening. So, here's the interesting thing, what's happening doesn't have a past. Can I repeat that? What's happening doesn't have a past. That would be a thought, right? You need a thought to say that this is coming from a past. Hi, Nkosi. Welcome.
Hi, Michael. Hello, everyone.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
If anybody has any comments or questions, like to ask Nkosi a question, just feel free to unmute and jump in.
I just have a comment. I was reading the website before I came on here, and also Nkosi tells me this all the time. The freedom is in not judging the character. And for some reason, I just really felt in tonight that I have spent a lot of time judging myself. Spent a lot of time judging you too, but it's all just judging. But I can see where never penetrated so much as me judging myself, and how that just has imprisoned me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that, Alice. And it's so true. And I had the same kind of thought about Nkosi, because I realized, well, really, if he's not judging, if there's no one there to judge himself, then there's no one there to judge other. But if I'm judging myself, then of course there's plenty of judge to judge others.
Yes.
Yeah. Judgment doesn't arise because this sees itself. It doesn't see the other. Well, judgment, what seems to be the judgment, may arise in what seems to be the story appearing in this, but that's just an appearance. It doesn't mean anything. It's just an appearance in this. So really, there's no judgment here because all there is this. It's just this. So this just doesn't mind what's happening. You know, anything may happen here. Somebody may ask a question, another one may give an answer. That's just what's happening. And that's got nothing to do with what seems to be an individual. Because what seems to be an individual is already this. So there is no real person who's looking for answers here. There's no individual who's looking for this. There's no individual already who has a question. It's just this. Everything is this. So what's happening is going nowhere. It may seem as if it's going somewhere in its own imagination, but there's nowhere to go here. It's just this. In whichever form or shape it may appear to be, it is this, just this. So there isn't anything to achieve here. There isn't anything to know. There isn't anything to do here. There's no path. There's no process. There's only what's happening, or what seems to be happening. And what seems to be happening, it's okay. There's nothing wrong or right with it. It's just what's happening. And expectations here, they don't arise. And waiting, there's no waiting here for anything to happen. So this cannot be described. This is beyond words. And nothing needs to be added on this. So everything is okay. As I always say, there is that sense of okayness with everything, with everyone. Because what seems to be everyone and everything is already this. So everything is okay. There's nothing wrong or right with anything. Yeah. It's just, really, there's nothing to say. And this is not talking, and this doesn't talk to anyone, because there's no one here. No, it doesn't talk at all. It's just talking happening. And this happening, what seems to be happening, is not happening to anyone or for anyone. It's just what seems to be happening. There is no one to be enlightened here. There is no one who's getting closer. And there's no one who has lost anything here. There's no one who has lost it. There's only it. You never lost it because you don't exist. There's nothing to lose anything here. You never get it. No one gets it already because there's no one here. There's just it. Trying to get it is just an imagination appearing in it as it. Well, it's not even in it. There are no words to describe this.
So no one here means that there's no one who sees a story and no one there's not someone who's trying to define my place inside of a story and trying to, make my place in the story and how things are for me and how things are going. And that's why there's no judgment, because there's really nothing wrong with judgment, but judgment means there's a big old me nearby, because the judgment is how I, take my place in a story. I know how right I am or how wrong I am or how good I am or how, good someone else is or bad or, it's just building the story. That's what judgment is. And so that's what also builds the sense of me. So, it's not a matter of judging whether, it's not a problem to judge. It's a problem that, well, not a problem anyway, but the judging makes the me and makes the story. So, but there is no story here. No story is really actually ever produced, There's just this. So. But judging is kind of a tool that the me uses to build itself, to establish its identity in a story. But that's all imaginary.
Thanks, Dan. I have noticed that I've set the characters up in my life to look like they like me and approve of me and think I'm great. And when they don't do that, I get irritated or somewhat angry and try to fix them so it's going to look that way. And you really enunciated clearly with your statement, and I can see clearly how I do that in my life. So thanks.
Well, good, but you don't do it. I hate to argue with somebody who's giving me a praise, but
no, that's okay. That's good to hear. That's right.
Yeah, but of course, the character Alice does that. That's what every character does. Right. Every me does that. And you would do it too if you were a me. But the me's are only in the stories.
Right.
They're not here.
Yeah.
But good, I'm glad that resonated.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I was just like when Nkosi recently said, I was listening to him speaking with you, Mary. I think it was the most recent one, but it's like Nkosi, you were speaking of the nothing, the nothingness behind the eyes. And so I loved that, but that resonated here, and I'm seemingly there more often. And the me, or what happens then, right, is then just words start talking about that experience, thoughts start talking about that experience, and it's immediately an experience that I'm having here. And all that is a string of sounds and words and thoughts together. And for that, it's why it's imaginary, when it's still always just the nothingness behind the eyes. What kind of comments were those? I don't know, but.
Yeah, it's nothingness. It seems to be behind the eyes, but it's actually everywhere present. It's not even behind anything. So it seems to be. It's not that it's actually behind. Or I can say it's behind the eyes and beyond. It's everywhere present. It's everywhere present. So talking is just happening. Thinking is just happening. And this nothingness has got nothing to say. It's just there. Doesn't have any expectation. It doesn't have any desire. It's not waiting for anything to happen. It's just there. It's not doing anything. Activities may seem to go on, thinking, wondering, but it's doing nothing. It's just there. Those are just appearances. The body is just an appearance. Thoughts are just appearances. In this, they don't mean anything at all. Somebody may say, oh, I don't get this. That's just a thought. That's just an appearance. So there's only nothingness. So right now, there's no one talking. Right now, no one is thinking anything. We can look together. We can use concepts to look. There's just looking. There's no one looking. There's just seeing. No one is seeing. It's just right here. This doesn't need any understanding at all. So simple, even beyond the word simple. It's just right here. Any thought or any question that seems to appear, any sensation, it doesn't belong to anyone. There's no owner of that already. It's just appearing from nothingness. This is more like formless eyes in an empty space. They're just there. There's no mind or there's no brain attached to it. Just formless eyes in an empty space. Just there, doing nothing. There may be things moving around, but they don't matter. Just things moving around. They don't mean anything. So this is not a human being. Well, I can also say it's boundless energy. There's no depth to this. There's no path to this. It's just here, always here. The body may collapse, but this is always here. It doesn't go away. The death of the body doesn't mean anything. Nobody will ever die. There's nobody here. It's just life. No one was ever born here. No one will ever die.
A question: how do we know that the nothingness has no meaning?
There's no one here to know anything.
Then, right.
There's just nothingness appearing.
Then we can't, if there's no one here there's no one here to speak about the nothingness, then we can't say the nothingness doesn't have meaning. So there could be meaning here out of the nothingness, but we don't know that because we're not here.
There is no one here. There's no we. There's just this.
Right. And this could have meaning or it could not have meaning. That this, just this.
We don't. There's nobody here to give it meaning.
Right. But
so how can it have meaning?
Well, how can we know that the nothingness doesn't have any meaning?
Because meaning is a construct. It's part of the story.
We're judging the nothingness. We're saying we can't know the nothingness, yet we're saying the nothingness is meaningless.
There's already no we. Yeah, it's just this. It's just nothingness.
There's just
the one who's asking question right now is just nothingness already. It's wholeness already. So there's nowhere to go.
I guess I'm asking, there's nothingness, and yet we're saying what that nothingness is. And I don't know how we can do that because it's nothing. We're not here. There's nothing, yet we're saying something about the nothingness. But we're not here to say it, but we're saying it anyway, where it appears that we're saying it.
That was awesome. That was great.
Yeah.
So, but to have meaning, you have to have comparison. For something to have meaning, it has to either be more meaningful or less meaningful. But if we're thinking about a this that has no boundaries or even nothing, there's nothing to hold on to. There's no way to make any kind of comparison. And especially if there's nobody here to make the comparison. So it's really just sort of a lot of words trying to describe what can't ever be put into words. And comparison is for the small picture. We can only do comparisons when we're thinking about objects. But when we're at the level where we have the wholeness of this, there can't be any meaning or any kind of comparisons because everything is this. There's no other thing to compare anything to.
Yeah, it seems like meaning requires a subject. Meaning cannot exist independently of anything. It has to be for someone or for some purpose, or yeah, maybe that's what you mean by comparison. Cannot stand alone.
Yeah, Peter, really when we say meaning, it really means meaning for me, to me. So if you take me out of it, if there's no person, no subject, as you just said, then, well, you could say nothing is meaning. You could say it's anything. You could say, give any word you want because.
Right, Dan, but even if I wasn't here, you could say the universe needs meaning to exist, or it can go beyond the me.
Well,
you know,
okay,
meaning,
Peter, but who is saying
meaning
that? Yeah, all right. I don't, okay.
For the sake of the argument.
I'm just really, yeah, well, okay. I was trying to support what you were saying. But anyway, it's Kirk's point is really the essence of it. It takes two to have a meaning.
I think a way of saying it is that there's no reference points.
Yeah.
And meaning, and when we use meaning, it looks for reference points of comparison, but ultimately there are no reference points. That's a construct.
It's assuming a story is already in place. A meaning is meaning within a story for someone, somehow. But then nothing, I mean, isn't really nothing. It's not nothing that we can say anything about or that we know what it is or anything like that, because that would be a story. Nothing means, it's so nothing that we can't even say what it is, because there isn't anything to, again, compare it to. Language is always comparing. But the point is, that's what this is. This isn't just theoretical, you know. This is nothing, and there's no story here. And the more we talk about it, maybe the more this can resonate, you know, will become obvious and resonate and all of that stuff. The concept, the mind is, the concept is always looking for it, looking to find, where is it? Where is it? It's always searching, you know, on going down the road, looking everywhere for it, but it's only here. It's only just already here. Whatever the concepts are trying to build and trying to look for and trying to answer for. So the concepts always miss it because it's too present, too immediate. But it's here. It's just this. It's nothing, and it's not becoming anything else, because there isn't anything else. And that's almost too much for me to accept, to deal with, because the me is busy looking for it. Doesn't have time to see that it's just this.
I'm just curious, when you're actually feeling this nothing, what does that feel like inside? Is there a release? How does it feel to everybody? I know there's nobody, but is there a feeling? Is there words to wrap around it, to express it? Maybe not.
For me, it is kind of, I mean, it has to be beyond words. If it's nothing, there's nothing to feel, but there is kind of an okayness. For me, it's like when Nkosi says, this just doesn't mind. Mm-hmm. So whatever's happening, whatever objects are presenting and disappearing, that nothingness just has an okayness. It has you know, anything can happen. And so there's no reason to judge. If something does happen that you don't like, for me, it makes it easier to let go of it because of that okayness, to kind of let go of the specifics.
Yeah, for me, even though there's no me, there's like this sense of freedom and expansion.
Yeah.
And there's some sort of joy attached to it. You know, you can see it within the Nkosi's face, because there's not an ego-bound person that's, you know, inhabiting this drama and trying to get something out of it. It's just being in that moment without you.
I was going to add, Aja, when you asked the question, it was a sense of presence. It's it's not a feeling, and it's unnameable, and it's some sense of presence.
Yeah. It's funny because the human sort of wants to describe it, but you can't describe it.
Right, and the presence, it's a non-judging presence. It's a presence that doesn't compare, as Kirk was referring to. It's simply a, and I know this is jargony, it's a beingness, it's a, yeah, those words get kind of close.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, because words can't really describe it. But in a sense, there's a sense of a free feeling. I don't know how to put that.
I think a good word is okayness, not okay versus non-okay. It's kind of a serenity, and that's just another word. I also would say I'm kind of glad that we're using different words, because even the word this, it's easy to get stuck on trying to then define, well, what is the this? And I think by using different words, or just words, or just, I don't want to use the word pointers, but all the words are poetically, it's kind of poetry in a sense.
Yeah, when you keep using the word this, it's almost like you almost get attached to this. So it's nice to play with different words, you know, even though it's all the same.
Yeah.
And I like that you said that it had kind of a joyfulness to it. It does, and it's a different kind of a joy. It's not a joy that's because of anything. It's just kind of like an unattached, sort of self-arising, self-creating joy. It is beyond any sort of attachments or definitions.
Yeah.
And when that had appeared for me, I had like 3 or 4 hours of it one Sunday. And the joy was that it was really like you guys, like Nkosi says, this is the simplest thing in the whole world. It's the easiest. It's so natural. And there was a sense of feeling, I guess, connected with, I loved my coworkers. It just kind of arose that I just loved where I was. And anyway, that was a glimpse, and it didn't last but about 3 hours. But it was so different than what my heavy life looked like to be in that place. That's what it was for me. And I don't know how that happens, but I sure couldn't make it happen. But maybe just the exposure to all of this, to Nkosi, to Michael, Dan, all of you. So I just keep coming back and listening.
I was going to add, Alice, that how it sometimes manifests is when I no longer feel the urge to take a position. Very often in life, I feel compelled to take a position, to judge, or to have a sense of identity that does, this and that and so on. And when that is dissipating or let go of, then there is just this sense that was hinted to, joyfulness or freedom. It's the freedom of being defined or having an urge to define and to take a separate. I guess that's what it is when we identify with the being and make everything else other. as Nkosi keeps pointing to, if there is no other and no me, I guess then we arrive at there is just this.
Yeah, and when we arrive at just this, you know, I grew up, you know, people telling me I had to become this and I had to accomplish this in life, and if I didn't, I was going to be a failure. But that sort of all dissipates at this point, you know. And if we're supposed to be doing something, it will happen, you know. And if we're not, we're not. And since there is nothing, it's perfect just the way it is.
Yeah, the story of the me has a lot of variations of, you know, supposed to and this and that.
Yeah, and you know, follow the world model, blah blah blah.
It's funny, everything the character me is trying to do and learning to do, amounts to actually just trying to do this, you know, trying to do this, trying to get to this or be this. Because this is what it is, what it all is, what everything is. So all the project of the me trying to do is really trying to do this. And this can't be done, right?
And whatever it does is this anyway.
Yeah, it's already done. It is already everything. It is already done. So, you know, that can be penetrate somehow, be seen.
And even if it's not already done, it's still this.
Right. It's already done by being this, by whatever,
or not
however you want to say it. Not by not being done. Right. But yeah, it wasn't the agenda of the me. It was just always this. So that can, you know, that can be seen somehow, or you know, become obvious, and then that's just automatically you lose interest. The me, you know, there's it's hard to be interested in anything that the me is trying to do at that point.
This is making the me
pulls
crazy.
The rug out. This is it. This is what the me is trying to get to.
I like what you said there, Dan. You're saying that the me is just trying to get to what is already here now. Is that right?
Yeah, I said it. Yes. That's what I said.
I like that. So I'm just trying to get to here, to what's that. That's an interesting, that's boy, that's an interesting way to look at it. Thank you.
We're already here
Just
without
telling it
here.
like it is.
I felt that was pretty powerful too, Dan, the way you articulated it.
Aren't we here already without the you? Without the we?
With or without?
No.
What is it, Michael? Effortless and obvious.
Yeah, because it's only ever just what's happening.
That's a pretty cool way to live.
Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
It's a great form for nothing or for this is all there is.
Gratitude for what is being created already and what is offered to be.
Very good, Peter. Thank you.
Thanks to each
Father Peter has given our benediction.
Thanks to each and every one of you for coming this evening. So glad that you all came. Nkosi, brother, as always, no words. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.